Here is a cool idea for a movie. Time Traveling Thieves. Criminals from the past obtain a time machine and travel to the present where they steal money, which they then take back to the past. Their victims are helpless. The criminals cannot be sued by the victims because these thieves exist only in the victims' pasts. Furthermore, the victims cannot remember they ever even had that stolen money. They are just much poorer. But the victims do know they have been robbed because the crooks leave a trail where the only possible explanation is that someone from the past stole this money. Everyone can tell they have been robbed because they each owe money for things they never bought. They simply find themselves owing money for things that were consumed by someone else before they were even born. It therefore must be that someone in the past bought something the victims are now on the hook for. Ready to have your mind blown? This money-stealing time machine and the crooks who use it actually exist in the real world. The crooks used it in the past to steal from you, and there are more crooks like them in the present, using it right now to steal from people in the future. We can see the unmistakable mark of this crime. Every person now born owes money for things they never bought and will never get to use. This money-stealing time machine is called government deficits and debt. Each annual theft is called the deficit, and the total amount stolen throughout history is called the debt. Now, there is nothing wrong with borrowing money if you have the intention and the means to pay it back. However, if you intentionally deceive the lender by spending the borrowings without having any intention to pay them back, you are committing fraud. If you act even more outrageously by borrowing money, which you say someone else will pay back, which he does not even know you borrowed, you would be committing a double fraud. Yet this is precisely what government deficits are. Politicians keep borrowing, but never paying back what they borrowed. None of them ever had any intention of paying it back. None of them ever have paid it back. And worse, they do not personally assume any responsibility for paying it back, but instead make their debts the obligations of future generations. Clearly, these generations could not have agreed to taking on these debts because they were not even born yet. Every baby born in the United States today is immediately saddled with a debt of over $100,000, which they obviously never agreed to. Somehow, nobody gets arrested for this monstrous fraud. Nobody who commits it is made to repay the money they stole, nor are they jailed for their crimes. Why? Maybe it is because everyone who should put a stop to the crime is an accomplice to it. The police are paid with this stolen money, the judges are paid with it, the prosecutors are paid with it, the lawmakers are paid with it, even the recipients of government benefits are paid with it. So are the banks that loan it to people who then find themselves even more hopelessly in debt. Our system of money is so thoroughly corrupted that stealing from unborn children has become so commonplace that it is expected at all levels of the government. In stealing money from our future, the thieves are also stealing the sustainability of our civilization. Like a bank robber flush with ill-gotten loot, easy money leads to irresponsible short-term consumption without regard for long-term consequences. Our economy thus becomes overheated and exhausted as we make negligent decisions that we would otherwise not have made. And how do you think one overheats and exhausts an economy? Why, of course, with money stolen from the future. Since 1971, politicians have been hell-bent on maximizing immediate consumption. They have achieved that goal through reckless, fraudulent borrowing from our future. They panic if even 1 month goes by without economic growth. If there are 6 such consecutive months in a row, they call it a recession. They use this to justify further theft from the future, without any regard to paying back that money or to the consequences this will have on civilization's long-term health. Why do we steal what we do not need or want? Why doesn't the madness of stealing from our future and destroying our civilization stop? It is because our money system is broken. It was broken on the day it was created. That day was August 13th, 1971. Suddenly, money all around the world ceased being tied to the supply of gold. Instead, It could be printed by bureaucrats and politicians and imposed as debts upon the people of the future. The US president at the time was Richard M. Nixon, who is best known for saying, "I am not a crook." In fact, however, he was such a grand crook that even though he disgracefully resigned from office in 1974, people being born today still owe money he stole from them before they were even born. If Nixon had told the truth and understood what he had actually done, he would have said, while holding both his hands up in a gesture of victory, "I am the greatest crook in history." What do we need to end this money madness? Our kleptomaniac-like system of money is an existential threat to civilization and an affront to basic decency and justice. We cannot go back to the system that existed before. That predecessor was called the gold standard. That system failed. Gold has been used as money throughout much of history, but it has an Achilles heel, a vulnerability that has been exploited repeatedly. The weakness of gold is that it can be seized by physical force, and this fact invites violence and incentivizes war. Consider this brief history of gold recounted by Michael Saylor in his debate on Bitcoin versus gold. Gold invites violence. Alexander the Great gallivanted around the world to seize gold. Libby tells the story of 1,000 Roman sieges to steal the gold. Caesar sacked Gaul to take their gold. Kublai Khan seized the gold. Pizarro seized the gold from the Incas. Cortez seized gold from the Aztecs. Charles I seized the gold from all the British nobles. The Prussians seized gold from the French in 1871. In World War I, everybody seized gold. Lenin seized gold from the church in 1922. Roosevelt seized everybody's gold in 1933. Stalin seized the gold of the Spaniards in 1936. Churchill took everybody's gold in 1940 at the onset of World War II. In 1944 at Bretton Woods, the United States seized the world's gold and then took it hostage. Finally, Nixon killed all the hostages in 1971. Gold is always getting seized. Despite retaining its value over long periods of time, all too often throughout history, the actual ownership of gold changed hands through physical seizure rather than through voluntary exchange. This is why Bitcoin disables the money-stealing time machine forever. Finally, there now exists a solution to all this. For the first time in history, a system of money has been engineered to solve the weaknesses of all previous systems. It solves the problems with gold, which invited violence and war. It solves the problems of debt-based money, which invites time theft and short-sightedness. This, a perfectly engineered system, is Bitcoin. We do not have to let anyone steal from our children's future, or ruin our civilization anymore, or ever again. Unlike gold, Bitcoin is unseizable. Neither all the military power in the world, nor all of its computing power, can seize even a single Bitcoin, nor can any forces borrow non-existent and never-to-exist Bitcoins. When the Bitcoin standard replaces debt-based money, all of these destructive effects will cease. We will all then benefit from an economy that is permitted to cool down when overheated. We will benefit from a civilization where new efficiencies are not pilfered away on unnecessary stimulus. We will benefit from Bitcoin's incentives to generate abundant, clean energy. Bitcoin will rid the world of the institutions and practices that dared to steal from the helpless, unborn citizens of the future. It will bring about the end of the greatest heist ever that was foisted upon the whole world on that dark day in August of 1971. Only one champion can defeat these wicked enemies of humanity, perpetrating the greatest heist in all history, the world's greatest gladiator, Bitcoin. If you want to hear more fabulous explanations of inflation and the need for hard, sound money, watch this video here. If you don't like the idea of stealing money from future babies, hit that like button and subscribe for more eye-opening tales of injustice in our civilization. Thanks for watching.